listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
All right, so I'm just going to say it. I live in a constant state of anxiety. It's just not abated at all. And I hope I sound a bit better this week, though, do I?
You sound
a
better.
little bit.
Yeah, you sound a little bit better. You still sound stuffed up, but...
Mm-hmm.
But so this is, for anyone who doesn't know, this is episode 2 of Lisa having a COVID.
Yeah, well, I had the full-blown stuff, and then it'll be, what is it? It'll be 2 weeks on Friday. We record on Wednesday, so it's still giving me all it's got.
I hate this for you. I'm really sorry. And
Did you recover from your your little slight chemical burn from the shower mint?
Yes, I luckily
last week.
What a week. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
the accidental eucalyptusing.
Yes. I thought about that this morning, and I was thinking about how ridiculous that was. But, talk about brain fog, I'll just pop in on this and see what happens. And so things are much better, although it's not quite perfect yet. And I understand that I apparently, because of my 3 shots and because I've had COVID, I apparently have like about a 3-month grace period. Is that correct? I mean, none of us
We're
are
not
doctors.
scientists.
We're not scientists. We're not epidemiologists.
Sadly, we're not scientists. But after my sister and my best friend both had COVID, they were told to hold off on getting, because they actually got COVID pretty much basically the day before they were supposed to get their booster back in like January. And they were told to hold off for a couple of months on getting their booster because they would have like an immunity to whatever strain of COVID they had for a couple of months, ideally.
So for like a few months, I'm a bit of a superhero then. So
for a few months, you should be able, like, if you have been really just missing out on sort of like sharing a hot sauna with a friend, you should be fine.
Yeah. I know. I feel a bit like a bit cursed right now, even though everyone around me is getting it. Neither one of you have, but you guys have both been so careful.
I just think we're lucky. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
like everyone is getting it, and we've just been lucky. Like, I don't, like, yes,
Well,
I
I
stay
think it's
home
lucky
a
that
lot.
both of us can work from home.
Exactly. Like, super lucky we can both work from home.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I do stay home a lot. But I have been on a couple of patios, but otherwise, yeah, like, I don't do any inside stuff at all unless it's like just going into the store and being masked. But that's not like a reality that everyone can have, Like,
but the part that's upsetting me now is I'm imagining, do I have a 3 months superhuman qualities and then I get this again? Is that what I don't know. Because I know a lot of people.
I don't
who
think
have had
anyone
it twice.
knows.
No,
I don't think anyone knows either. I know people who've had it twice, but I haven't yet heard of people who've had it like 4 times. But I mean, it is only a 2-year span right now, so I don't know if that's a hopeful note or not.
I think that the I don't know is probably the only proper thing to say, and I guess we'll just constantly live in a state of anxiety for another. Who knows? However long it takes, we'll be there.
I mean, it's like, honestly, the onslaught of anxiety is very real on multiple levels and like multiple approaches. And I think actually a lot of people have always lived with like this constant state of anxiety. And it's a little newer to me. And that's, again, sort of like a luck thing on my part and like a bit of a privilege thing on my part. But like, the just like the feeling of everything being extremely overwhelming
Yes.
has not been a fun thing to sort of like reckon with and spend time looking at. So like I know for sure, like for a few weeks I was extremely angry and very easily set off and just anxious and depressed and like, you know, and I spent like a lot of time just trying to like, you know, talk through it, work through it, whatever. And I've been like pretty fortunate that right now I've compartmentalized and I'm moving through the world in an okay space right now. But like, yeah, it's intense. It's really intense.
Compartmentalize. That sounds like the best advice. You just really, all you can do is just put it into a little box and try not to think about it so much.
Well, yeah, I mean, some people I've been talking to who have had COVID and, you know, like maybe the actual like physical sickness, like they're, you know, it was like you, I guess, you know, like it's like a cold basically. But a lot of them are talking about like the added emotional burden that COVID carries because you like spend all this time like wondering how you got it, wondering if you infected others and like all this stuff. And it's just like kind of not accounted for, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
people take a few days off work like it's a cold and then come back. But I think people are coming back too soon, maybe because like, you know, like some people are telling me that like you really need to take that time to just like process the fact that you've had COVID and, you know, like it's not like a regular cold and it's harder. It's just like all of it is harder to get over.
I would agree with all of the above of what you said. Yeah, it definitely, I think it stays with you and I think it makes you feel a little bit more vulnerable, strangely. Because before that you thought, oh, I'm avoiding it. I'm one of those lucky ones. And now you're not one of the lucky ones. You're one of the ones that have had it. And you don't really know. I mean, 2 years into this, we don't even really know what it means to have had it, to be honest. And so, and it was like a cold, but it was like a really nasty one. It was like a really, I would describe it more as a flu. Than a cold, but it go from a flu to a cold. So, it's sort of something poetic there. From a flu to a cold.
I mean, I'm sure there is a lot of poetry to be found in the, you know, especially like when you have it in like a household. And like you've shared it with a loved one. I can imagine there's like a certain sad intimacy there. You know, that could be really hard. You had it over Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh,
and actually,
boy.
I gotta say, like, I didn't intend for this to be a segue, but having watched this show so close to Mother's Day, the first 2 episodes, so close to Mother's Day, when for the first time in a couple years, I had like the majority of the women that are mothers and I'm related to in my life, we had them over to our home, windows open, you know. Some people had COVID, so they were probably okay. Some people have had their 4th booster. Like, you know, it was real, but it was still a risk. It was still a risk, and it was a weird afternoon, and it felt good, but also like anxiety inducing. And also just to spend time in a room full of people that you are part of. I gotta say, going right from that to watching this was a trip. Very exciting. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And yeah, Russian Doll. We're back, baby.
Russian Doll is back. Okay. First of all, can you believe it was 3 years since
No.
season 1 came out?
No.
What happened to time?
Well,
That doesn't
COVID
make
happened
any-
to time, and
I
That
really
doesn't
don't
make any
remember
sense.
anything that happened in 2021. You bring things up, and I go, "Oh yeah, that's right." It went
But this
by
came
so
out
fast.
season 1 came out February 1st, 2019.
Yeah, and I watched it right away, and it feels like just the other day. Then again, when I watched the recap, I was, "Oh yeah, oh yeah."
honestly, the recap, I was just like, I do not remember half of the stuff that's going on
Yeah,
here.
exactly. Yeah.
That's what's really messed up about everything. It's like it feels like we just watched season 1 and taped the season 1 episode in the last couple of years or so,
Yep.
not 3 years. But at the same time, I agree with you, Adolf. Like, I did not recall much of the recap at all. It's been too long.
It's funny. I just saw a TikTok on that where it was just this guy watching a recap after a show he hasn't watched for 3 years. I
Yes.
just about sent it to you, but we were about to come here, so I thought, well, I'll just tell it to you. And the guy's going, "Oh, good, the recap," and he's going, "Oh, I don't remember that. Oh, I don't remember him. Did I miss a season? Was there a season that I didn't watch?"
Or you're like, did I miss some episodes? 'Cause
Yeah, exactly.
Like some scenes didn't even look familiar to me at all. And yeah, it's just like it's such an interesting thing now with Netflix and streaming TV, how like prestige television, like network television, it used to be like the show happens like we're on a schedule, like a season happens, there's a summer break, starts
Yeah.
again. We talked about this last week with the flight attendant.
Yeah.
And like if it's canceled, it's canceled. That's it. It's over forever. But like with this kind of in this streaming world, it's like shows can sort of like start season 1 as like a limited series and you think it's just going to be like these 8 episodes and that's it. And then it just like Russian Doll it comes back 3 years later.
Whether
with
it
a
needed to
completely
or
new
not.
season. Exactly. Same with Flight Attendant. Same with like Big Little Lies. Like they're all supposed to be limited
exactly.
series and then they just like wait for a time and they come back.
You know, I feel like you should be able to write a letter going, "Do not take my watching this show as some kind of indication that I want a season 2."
But I'm so happy we have a season 2. Like I know it's maybe a polarizing season. We're only going to talk about the first 2 episodes. I haven't watched more than that. Have either of you watched more than that?
I've watched 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I've watched 3 as well.
Okay, so so do you like season 2? Like are you happy we're back in this world, or do you wish we had just stuck with 1 and done?
I'm kind of savoring each episode, which is why I haven't like binged all of them in a row. Cause I'm like, I found the first couple that I watched, like I needed to sort of process what was happening and think about how it was different from season 1 and think about, you know, like this kind of the version of time travel that they were creating. And it's just a lot to process and I am enjoying it. I'm glad it came back.
Lisa, what about you?
I reserve judgment really on whether or not I'm glad it came back. If in fact at some point there is some kind of tie-in between these 2 seasons, then I will be satisfied. But at the moment, I'm just feeling like I'm being dragged along like, oh, everyone really liked this first season where it was this crazy experience where this woman and this man are living the same day every day all the time. And now we're just in some kind of weird time travel experience. And so if they manage, and this is a big if, to tie the 2 seasons together, then I will have considered it a success and I will consider my time spent with the show worthwhile.
I
feel like I wish I had a gavel.
Yeah,
That is
And
how
so
I feel.
decreed.
And so done. Yes.
No, I can understand that. Like I think I really have enjoyed these first 2 episodes. I think they're like a little bit weirder, a little bit more a little bit harder, a little bit like more aggressive.
A bit more wisecracking.
Yeah, like, and I think it has like the confidence of having really hit the nail, or sorry, excuse me, I'll go with like a sports metaphor, as I'm so wont to do. It really like hit the ball out of the ballpark on season one. And so they're going for like an extra victory lap around the bases kind of thing. And so whether or not it all comes together, I don't know. I think like I enjoy the world enough that it won't matter to me as much if they tie it together, because I like these characters, and I really love Natasha Lyonne's performance. Like, I have been waiting, I feel like 20 years for her to have this kind of chance, you know? And bring
And isn't
this.
she directing this as well? Or some of the episodes?
She's doing all kinds of stuff.
She's the
Like,
showrunner.
yeah, she's like one of the co-creators, and you know. And so I feel like we've been just, I don't know, I personally, because I'm like a big fan of hers, like just waiting for her to really like have this opportunity, show up in this way. And maybe because I am such a fan of hers, I give the show just so much more leeway, because there's like a pleasure in watching her work through semi-autobiographical details in this very sort of like weird space-time strange place.
Yeah. Well, I was reading when I was doing research about this episode that it was originally pitched as a 3-season show.
Okay.
Okay, so then I might get my tie-in.
Yeah, you might get your tie-in, Lisa.
But maybe it won't even end up happening till season 3.
Yeah, that doesn't seem fair. But
That's risky for
I'll keep
that's
going.
risky for you.
They're only half-hour episodes as well, so
Yeah.
that's quite a bit different than when we watch The Flight Attendant, and those are full hours. So I feel like I'm a little more generous with watching just half-hour episodes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We never actually did the background or synopsis, so I'll read the quick background if that's cool.
Okay.
Russian Doll is a comedy drama Netflix series created by Natasha Lyonne, Leslie Headland, and Amy Poehler. The series stars Lyonne as Nadia Volvikov. I feel like they just went so close to try and get Volvikov,
Yeah.
and I love it. I love it. A game developer who repeatedly dies and relives the same night in an ongoing time loop and tries to solve it. Stars Charlie Barnett, Greta Lee, Yul Vasquez, Elizabeth Ashley, Chloe Sevigny, and Annie Murphy. The first season received 4 Emmy Award nominations, including Outstanding Comedy Series and Outstanding Lead Actress for Lyonne. And in June 2019, the series was renewed for a second season, and now here we are. It came out April 20th, 2022.
I'll do the synopsis. We open 4 years after Ellen and Nadia fixed their first bug in the universe's code. A side note, Nadia's day job as a game designer helped inform her pragmatic approach to getting repeatedly run over by a taxi. Our heroine is just a week shy of her 40th birthday, a more widely acknowledged milestone than season 1's 36th, the point at which Nadia officially outlived her mother Nora, played by Chloe Sevigny, a troubled soul responsible for her daughter's unstable upbringing. Nilsson gives way to Depeche Mode, whose personal Jesus perfectly matches Nadia's goth-adjacent wardrobe and stomping gait. And on a routine trip downtown, a southbound 6 train somehow brings Nadia not just 40 blocks south, but 40 years into her own past. And that's from Alison Herman in The Ringer.
I really love seeing vintage, grimy 80s New York.
Yes.
Like that is a real sort of like particular personal sort of like stoking of my fire.
Although you don't see a lot of it, but I guess, budgetary concerns. We have like limited a few cars and things and some garbage bags, which is generally how we think of New York in the 80s, garbage bags.
Well, and people,
grimy.
And grimy and people like a volunteer group of people ensuring that you got safely out of the subway.
The Guardian Angels.
The Guardian Angels.
Yeah.
I feel like I hope we're going to get to spend a bit more time in 80s New York.
Can I just say, I was just going to say that the most exciting moment for me was seeing Annie Murphy. I was I didn't know it was going to happen. I hadn't read it.
Nice.
And so all of a sudden when she showed up, boy, oh boy, lights, camera, action.
Yeah, I love her. It's great to see her.
Yeah, I'm enjoying like all the times like the bar scenes and everything like that. Just that feeling of sort of
Impending terror. Yeah, because I mean it was. I don't know if everybody who lived in New York in the 80s feels quite as nostalgic about nearly getting mugged all the time, and tripping over rats and garbage.
They seem to. at least the ones that survived it.
Yes, exactly. People in bands who went to CBGBs. Yes.
Exactly. No, I really like the first like we give ourselves little names when we sign in to sort of record the episodes, listeners. And my first name before I decided to redo it was Natasha Lyonne's swagger walk is my sexuality. Just honestly, I feel like we spend 2 episodes just watching her storm from place to place to place, and there is very little in my life that is as distinctly pleasurable this week as watching her walk around. It is so fun.
And why is it every room she goes into, she has to take off her coat?
Because it's a great coat.
It is, but it's such a funny thing. Every time she goes into a room, she takes the coat off and then has to put the coat back on again, even if she's not planning on spending that long there. It's very unusual.
Well, it's actually like, I think of it as like a super winter in New York kind of vibe. Like she's wearing a coat that is absolutely just way too warm for indoors. And so as soon as she like goes inside anywhere, she has to rip off that coat because she just came from like the freezing outdoors. And Vancouver, we just don't have that experience.
No. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't understand that.
You should mention what you've changed your
my new name is Smoking Really Does Look Cool. Yes, it does.
It's a lot of smoking.
It's so much smoking.
So much smoking on this show. It's as if that's what she said. Look, I'll do the show, but it's going to be a lot of smoking.
And especially as she's like trying to encourage like young Ruth, Annie Murphy, to give up smoking while she's smoking, but like, and we see her pregnant, like she's actually like in her mother's body. Man, when we find out that it's not just time travel, but a body swap, but not like even a swap, it's like just a one-way.
Yeah. Inside,
whatever.
Yeah.
I did not know that's where we were going. Were you guys surprised by that? I knew it involved time travel. Did not know it involved like body inhabitation.
Yeah, it's deeply unsettling as it is her mother's body.
Yes, and that's
who's
her.
pregnant
She's
with
pregnant
her.
with her own self, and she doesn't seem to stop smoking or drinking for any other reason. I guess she knows it all works out, so you may as well go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, I guess.
There has been literally no conversation. You know how like other time travel things would be really caught up with like the butterfly effect and nonsense like that? Mm-hmm. There has not been a single conversation where like what Natasha does in the past, I guess, inhabiting Nora's body, really actually sort of like has any kind of like wreaked any kind of havoc with like the present. Like there's no cause and effect.
Well, and I think to me, I can really relate to that because I think like if
wait a second, just stop on that. Stop there for a minute.
No,
I don't think I've ever heard you say anything quite like you are relating to time travel.
No, I meant like if I had a chance to time travel, I'm sure like I would have plans to do specific things.
Yes.
But it would end up I'd go there, I'd run around like a chicken with its head cut off and totally accomplish nothing probably and then come back. Like I realistically, I think that's what would happen. I don't know that I would be able to actually in reality execute any plans.
I'd like to have the opportunity which Nadia has, which is to do something and then get back on the train and then come back to 2022 and see how it was. So nothing's changing so far.
Easy.
Yeah, nothing she has altered nothing yet. But I got to assume something is going
But I mean, she's tried. She just hasn't succeeded in
Yes.
altering anything.
She hasn't altered a
Which
single
is
thing
what
yet.
I find relatable.
Okay.
I love this. Each of us is really, I think, revealing a lot about ourselves in our understanding and relating to this show. And I like this. I love this. This is like one of those Rorschach tests.
Yeah, we're doing some analysis now, everyone, which makes sense since we do have a therapist as a character on this show.
I apologize if you guys already know the answer to this, but like when I saw that Alan got on the train and I noticed that it was just a bunch of German writing above him.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
I was like, oh, is he like traveling back to like
where his mother was?
Berlin? Like what's I'm so excited to see where this is going. Because like then not only is it time travel, but like it's also like just like like travel across like lands like this
But then Nadia sees him on the other train.
She does see him, yeah, but like that's because they, I think, are just so connected. Like for whatever reason, they have they have been fated to be deeply involved in each other's lives. Which again, I still think of as like I do love this notion overall that they're like the impetus on us is to help people even if we don't know them or have connection to them necessarily. And, hopefully you can, by extending some kindness to another person, you can maybe like be an important and crucial change or part of an important and crucial moment in their life that like pays dividends forever or whatever. And because they don't really have, like, even as actors together, they don't necessarily have the most chemistry. Like, they have been thrown together in this way. But I think that's going to end up being important to the overall theme, maybe if we do get 3 seasons, of like this whole Russian doll world, Like, I feel like there's something like sort of greater at work here because they're both really good actors. And you wouldn't cast people who have such sort of like separate, like who can keep that distance between them without it sort of like paying off somewhere down the road. So I think there's like some really interesting, tough places we're gonna go with this show.
Oh, I feel like, yeah, it's been tough already. I don't imagine it easing up or something. But I also, if Nadia is able to convince Ruth to quit smoking, that's going to change the actor portraying her as an as an infirm woman in the hospital, because that voice has smoked a lot for sure.
That voice reminds me of, do you remember in Beetlejuice, the woman who has like the hole in her throat from having smoked?
Yeah.
They remind me of each other.
And Patty and Selma.
Yeah, Patty and Selma.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm so curious as to like whether like we're gonna start to sort of see ripple effects of whatever has happened, because also do you find it, or did you find it? I found it extremely squicky that
Squickie?
Squickie,
Did
yeah.
you just make up that word? I've never heard you say it before.
No,
Me either, yeah.
It's a very specific word when I'm like squicked out. It's when she realizes that she's in her mother's body, pregnant with herself.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then goes back into the bed and like has sex with the guy. I was like, nope, could not. I could, we talked about compartmentalization earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Could not.
Yeah.
Don't think I could.
Did she fully have sex with him? I thought she was going to and then left.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought
that's what happened too.
I thought,
Yeah.
well, anyways, it was.
There was a definite making out, though, that was happening.
And
yeah.
there was some penis action. Like
Yeah,
she at least went near it. Anyway,
She went near those briefs. Those leopard spotted briefs.
Those leopard spotted briefs. But I mean, I also like, there's also then this part of me that's like, yeah, I mean, I guess go get it, Nadia. Like, you deserve to, if this is what you want, it's fine. Like, but there's like the squickening in me was just
The squickening.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was kind
How
of
do
very
you spell
confusing.
that?
I spell it Squick.
Okay, good to know.
We can the pop this dictionary will
Yeah.
be yours.
I'm
one
sure
day
that
soon.
I'm sure that it's out there in the world somewhere. I'm sure I'm not.
Well, I will. Let me see. Squick. Squick. Okay, I'm looking up squick. It says meaning. It says cause someone to feel intense disgust.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, wow. It's
Yeah.
actually a real word.
Yep, Squick. And here's the sentence as it used as an example. We get that bodily fluids can squick people out.
What?
I mean,
What is the origin of this word? I've never heard it before.
It's seemingly phanastic.
You guys, this is killing me.
Phanastic. It's phanastic. So I guess it's like it's more like a feeling, but they put a word. I don't know. Anyway, it was used correctly on this podcast.
Wow.
That's what's important.
Hat tip to Andrea Warner.
Yeah. Word power here.
Yeah, like that is a word you win like Scrabble with.
I do
And
play
everyone
Scrabble
disagrees
sometimes,
with
you're
you.
right.
And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden there's
Yeah.
squicky. Squick.
Anyway,
Anyways, there's like it just felt like there was like a sort of also just more an intense sexuality to the first two episodes than I felt there was in like the entirety of last season. Am I wrong?
Mm-hmm. She
Yeah.
had a
I don't know.
boyfriend, didn't she? She had a boyfriend that she was always sleeping with. I remember that.
Yeah, he was like I felt like he was more of like a sort of sad sack disastery dude. Like I don't remember it being.
Now that we start coming up with these details, I'm like, yeah, that sounds right 3 years ago. Yeah.
but I feel like the conceit of season 2 so far, to me at least, is a little bit more affecting in that, this idea that she's exploring like her mother and her grandmother, like their trauma, and sort of trying to come to some kind of understanding of it, like how it informs like the baggage that she's carrying through
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
And that really makes one think of, what if you could go and see like what your mom was like as a young person, or your grandmother, and like what their lives are like. And, like nobody really spends that much time thinking about that. And yet I think it's probably true of every single person that they do carry baggage that is a result of like, their upbringing and, with their parents or whoever raised them, and their feelings and ideas and the stuff they thought was right or wrong. And it's, to me, the conceit is just, it's really interesting to watch to watch, because it does make you think about like your own life a little bit.
Here's a question about the word squick. Was it squickier? which was squickier for you? Was it this moment of seeing Nadia almost have sex as her mother with her inside her, or Back to the Future, where his own mother was hitting on him?
I have not at that episode.
Back to the Future, the movie with Michael J. Fox?
Sorry. You mean the movie Back to the Future?
Yeah, the movie Back to the Future, which is a squickier thought.
Excuse me. Well, I mean, I guess I'm probably still with the Nadia component, because I feel like there was more genital contact. And I think it's like the extent of the genital contact. Like, I mean, honestly,
Well, the 50s seemed more of an innocent.
Yeah.
well, and I liked seeing his mom at least sort of exert her sort of sexual agency, and like what sort of like, I mean, we all know there's a lot of like
going? We all know
Okay.
what do we all know? Oh my
God.
gosh. Okay.
we all know that there's a lot of like classic stuff out there in the world of like literature and psychoanalysis and all kinds of things about like, mother-daughter relationships and father-daughter, or mother-son relationships and father-daughter relationships, and like a squickening there as well. And like I will be among the first to say, like, I definitely married a man who is a little bit like my dad. So that's probably worth some few squickie feelings, but like
we are really going in this.
But I mean, in the best possible way, in that, like, I never, I presume, I don't know, he died when I was 17. I do not believe I ever felt, a desire sexually for my father.
Whoa.
But I just want to say, like, but that's why it's kind of so fascinating to me with Back to the Future, when, like, in this idea that, like, moms will, like, just do anything for their sons and, like, defend their sons and blah, blah, blah. So, like, having Back to the Future sort of, like, flip the script on some sort of, like, really classic things and just have this mom be like, she's like, I can see my son in this boy and I can see myself in this boy. And, yeah, I'm into it. And
yeah.
It's interesting. You know what I mean? Like, anyway,
It's interesting.
all of that to say,
Wow.
what is different with Russian Doll? I can't even believe. And I am going to come back around and circle it back to AG's trauma. So hold on, or not AG's trauma, but like family trauma. But like what is, I think, different with Russian Doll, and this is where it sort of like is so interesting, is because she's inhabiting her mother's body and she knows who she is, but nobody else knows who she is in these moments, right? So like Nadia gets to be like weirdly like omniscient, and of course she's like kind of disassociating from what the literal experience is, because it's only when she catches glimpses of herself in the mirror that she can remember that she's like not herself. Mm-hmm. Like she doesn't even bother trying to keep it straight when she's like talking to her grandmother or talking to Ruth. Like these people having those contemporary conversations with Nora, like Nora really must have been a next level wild conversationalist for neither of these women to be like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they just keep going like, yeah, it makes sense that she's referring to me in the third person and that she's talking about future. Like neither of these, Ruthie nor the grandmother, pay any attention to it. And so it's but I do think like that comes back to like sort of what we allow, or what Russian Doll like purports to do, is that like, of course the trauma runs downhill, like from generation to generation to generation, but it also ends up becoming like extremely individual to the point where they are, the trauma has like isolated them and made them sort of like slightly competitive with each other, resentful towards each other, and still sort of like indebted to each other genetically. Like they don't think of love necessarily as something that is a chosen thing, because they come from like love as an act of survival because of the Holocaust. So like I just think there's like so much happening in this show. Sorry, I really monologued there. Anyway, took us from incest to trauma to back again, and thanks, guys.
Woo!
This was
It was a great ride.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
I wasn't
So
expecting
sorry.
to go on it, so thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Now we're all
my
just
fault.
kind of thinking about your dad. Sorry, but
Look, he was a handsome man, and he does look a lot like Carlos. It's wild. But that's really, and they're both nice people who like did good things. So, but like those are pretty like decent traits to be able to sort of
yes,
replicate
yeah,
in people who are important to you, you know?
Sure.
And it's nice to see that you're self-aware about it.
Yeah. Wow, that sounded like a backhanded compliment.
Oh my god, I love it so much. I love it so much.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good for you.
No, I'm pretty self-aware about it. I love it. It's great. I mean,
Well, no, because like I've heard you talk about how you and Carlos resemble each other.
oh god, yeah. We get actually mistaken for, we do. I think we do resemble each other, and especially since he's grown out his hair during the pandemic. Like we both now have the same hair length. But we also, even though he has a full beard, we have frequently throughout our relationship been mistaken for lesbians. And that's like a whole other conversation. And I mean, we're happy with it, like whatever. It doesn't faze us, and Carlos is completely unfazed by it. But it happens all the time where we get like, "Hello, ladies," or "Hello," like whatever.
Oh.
And we get that a lot.
But
I do think it's like,
you've also talked about how you've been mistaken for brother and sister too.
oh, siblings too, for sure. Yeah. No, we get mistaken for all kinds of things. In fact, when they bring us the check at the end of a meal and they ask separate checks, I get quite insulted. I'm like, well, you know what? We just didn't make out enough during this meal. Not that we ever make out during a meal because that's gross and we're not 20 anymore, but just saying, like.
I don't know if I can process being in this podcast, let alone Russian doll.
I know this podcast episode, whoever's listening is like, I'm gonna need some time to think about all this.
This is quite a ride. This is like Andrea Warner's life as a Russian doll. And we're taking this layer off. And what's in here? Oh my gosh, what's in here?
I like it. It's great. It's
okay.
Yeah, no, it's real fun. But yeah, no, it's all the time. It happens all the time.
Do we want to work through anything? Does anyone have anything else they want to bring up now, or anything that this show has illuminated for them?
I found it super interesting. The Krugerrand aspect, where she's like trying to recover these coins that her mother lost, that her grandmother had, because my parents were born in South Africa, and my grandmother, when they lived there, also bought Krugerrands as like a safe thing to have instead of cash. And it's such an interesting thing because like in our family too, like she kept those Krugerrands and they're just like, you
like, really relate to this
things.
Show.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was super interesting to me because I never really heard anyone talk about Krugerrands before. I thought it's just like a South African thing.
Wow. This is a lot, everyone.
I mean, when you're an immigrant, like sort of moving from country to country or whatever,
yeah,
like it is a thing where you think, oh, like it's safer to have, convert my money into jewelry. Like when my grandmother left South Africa, she bought a diamond ring, and it's not because she wanted a diamond ring; it's because she preferred to carry it instead of a bunch of cash with her while she was traveling.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was actually really interesting is like, so in Nadia's confrontation with her grandmother in her mother's body, which again, complicated. This is a conversation that's never going to go well. The grandmother has just realized that the Krugerrands that mean so much to her, and not because necessarily of the money, but because this is how she wants to be able to sort of guarantee the future of her family, they're gone. And so she seems to feel like the future of her family is, compromised and over. And Nadia is, I guess, so damaged from how her experience of being raised by Nora, and Nora has her own damage of her experience of her childhood. Like Nadia can't even really fully feel like compassion for like what her grandmother has gone through in this moment. And I think that's something that she does want to work towards, and that's what she seems to try to be doing in her real life now, is just like working a little bit more towards compassion and like and having more feelings. But I think that is so hard, like it's really difficult to be vulnerable, and it has to be sort of like a choice. And she, like, in working towards sort of like feeling more vulnerability and compassion for herself, she's gonna unfortunately have to do that work of like that deep trauma work of like sort of interrogating the wounds from like her mom and her grandmother. And I really like, I think that is such an ambitious and huge theme to set a season around that otherwise, like for a lot of people is meant to be sort of like a fun, wacky escape. In the same way that the flight attendant, is doing a lot of sort of deep work around trauma too, right? And they just do it so differently. But I think it like, particularly when it's the ways in which mothers and daughters and grandmothers and like long lines of like matrilineal sort of connection have somehow like something has compromised, something has let you down. Like, I think that there is a little bit of truth sometimes that like we are harder on our moms and our grandmothers than we are, like, as daughters, harder on our moms and grandmothers sometimes than like we might be on our dads.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And then I also, I have been thinking about that idea that they introduced about, the Coney Island, which is like basically the what if, like this had happened in your life. And, like that too reminds me of like, I don't know if it reminds either of you of your grandparents, but like I think when you get to a certain age and you look back on your life and you talk about it to people, there are those stories where you say like, oh, if that had worked out that way, or this has happened instead of this, or blah, 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 those Coney Islands in your life. And so that's made me think about stuff a lot too. Like just giving it a name,
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good one. I like that expression. I have a friend whose mom told me that story years ago. She was, just she's in England and she was setting out on her own, and she had all this money in cash, as you were just saying, that the big mistake, and she lost it. And she said, and she was a teenager at the time when she lost it. And she said, I've never recovered from that financial loss my whole life. And so I told my friend that, and she went, oh, that story again. Like, she rolled her eyes. Like, the whole family knows that one story that she feels like she never recovered from that financial loss. And that's a large burden to carry through your whole life.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh.
Well, it is, especially if you think like, oh, how would this have changed my children's lives or my grandchildren's lives?
Yeah. Or the decisions you made because you were now broke, as opposed to the decisions you would have made with money.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the other part that I thought was kind of interesting is like when she does that whole ipso facto, it's my money to lose because it was my inheritance, like down the road. And like there's an entitlement to that element of that speech that is really interesting to me, that like this idea that generational wealth, because generational wealth is so much the backbone of like North American wealth particularly, and obviously around the world, but like particularly North American wealth, like and that you kind of have to have that to be able to even begin to succeed financially in the world. Like, but it's not like a lot of us don't have that ever, and there's nothing to inherit. And when there is nothing to inherit, what's the legacy that you then, because like inheritances, I mean, I guess you're lucky if they're financial, but most of ours are emotional.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, or something genetic.
Yeah, or genetic, or both, or whatever. Like, it was really interesting to me to like hear that sort of like moment of real selfishness in this like otherwise sort of like, I want to try and like, I want to call you out for what you've done to my mom, call you out for what happened here, but also still tell you I love you. But also like, I don't have to feel anything in this moment because it's already, it's mine. That what was lost it happened to me ultimately. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
Oh God, you did a great outline, AG, and I'm sorry we didn't read from any of it, but I feel like we had some real delightful conversations.
We sure did. We learned a lot more about each other that than I ever expected.
And at the word squickening.
Yeah, we now have a new word for our vocabulary. It's something that makes us feel squicky.
I I mean, I know where I stand. I think Russian Doll season 2 pops, and I will keep watching it.
I will give it a
Me
pop,
too.
and I will keep watching. But I'll say next week whether or not I felt that that I gave my time and it meant something. That's what I'll say next week.
Do you think you'll be able to
meant
know by
something.
next week? Like,
How many episodes are there?
it's like 8 or 10.
7.
7.
There we
Oh,
go.
they're half-hour episodes. Yes. I
Oh,
will
yeah,
know by
you'll make
next
through it
week.
next week.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'm going to give it a pop for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to watch it slowly, though.
I watch 2 episodes at a time, so I'm finished 3. So yeah, but I want to get it done. I like to stay in the momentum of it. I like being in a world, watching a show in a world. I like it. I like being in this world. It's quite fun.
I hope we get a lot more Greta Lee, because I love her
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, she hasn't been in it that much so far.
Yeah.
Also, Charlie Barnett. I'm assuming he's going to show up more and maybe be in Germany, but we'll find out.
Yeah. I mean, you'd imagine for sure. I don't know.
And then Chloe Sevigny, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Really enjoying her performance.
Yeah.
But also, like, the visuals of this movie, like, aside from the acting, like, it's just... I'm really enjoying all the rich, deep colors that it was all there season 1 as well. But
Yeah.
it's just it's a really beautiful show to watch.
Yeah, it is. Season 3, you get card catalogs too, which I always have a fondness for. Or episode 3, I should say.
Oh, episode 3. Nice. I thought you
Yeah.
meant. I thought you were seeing into the future.
I am a time traveler, and I've already seen season 3. So, yeah, wouldn't that be
what
the
you
twist?
did. That's what you did with your time travel.
That's
wow.
what I did. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I really did waste it. Hey, yeah, there you go.
This is Lisa Christiansen reporting from the future about
I
season
just
3 of Russian
watched
Doll.
a lot of shows.
Yeah, I
And
was
I'm now going to
curious.
come back and spoil them for everybody.
Yeah. No, I didn't do any investing or stopped world dictators. No, I was busy. I wanted to see season 3 of Russian Doll.
Honestly, thrilled for you. I think that's great.
Thank you.
We love to leave our episodes on something we recommend. Lisa, would you like to go first?
Sure. So I just watched the first 2 episodes of this new series called I Love That For You, starring Vanessa Bayer. Has anyone watched it yet?
Oh, I haven't watched it yet, but I want to.
Oh, what a
I've heard it's
delight.
good.
It is
Okay,
so
good.
much fun. It is, I don't want to tell you what it's about. I did read the interview with Vanessa Bayer in the New York Times, so I knew what it was loosely based on. Well, it is based on her life, but let's just say if you really love Vanessa Bayer and you also love the Home Shopping Network, and more importantly, I have to say, if you love Molly Shannon, who I absolutely adore. So lots
Nice.
of Molly Shannon. So highly recommending this show. 2 episodes are up right now.
Awesome. Thank you. AG, what about you?
I've been listening to this podcast, which has been around for a long time and is super popular. So I don't know how useful a recommendation this will be, but I've been listening to Scam Goddess and enjoying it very much. It's hosted by Lacey Mosley, and it's a podcast dedicated to fraud and all those who perpetrate it. They call themselves the genre of true fun crime. And basically every episode, Lacey invites a comedian on and they talk about like scams, and it could be like historical scam or it could be a contemporary scam. And they just kind of like go through like what this person did, how they got away with it. It's very funny. I highly recommend it.
That sounds great. Thank you. I am also going to recommend a podcast. I've recommended it before, but it's the new season of You Must Remember This. And it is exploring. So it's gonna unfold in 2 parts. The first part is sort of rolling out right now, and it is the erotic 80s.
Ooh,
and-
bomb.
Yeah, so I'm only 2 episodes in, but it starts out with like a little bit of like 2 episodes to sort of kick into the 80s to sort of set up like how we arrive at the erotic 80s. And it starts out with like the brief legitimacy, this is quote unquote, the brief legitimacy of the X-rated movie. And then it dives into this is a deeply squickie feeling, the relationship between Bo Derek and her director husband, God, whatever his name is, John Derek. And it's great. I mean, it's beautifully researched. It's the show notes and the episode guides for the show on You Must Remember This pod are fantastic. Lots of pictures too, if you want to sort of like see the things that Karina is talking to you about. It's just, yeah, it's really great.
Wow. Lots of good stuff for everybody then.
So much good stuff. So much.
Squickie and not squickie.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, it's nice that you guys have some like non-squickie recs because
yeah, I love that for you is just eye candy and of the best kind. So that's all. Eye and brain candy.
Nice. That's great. Well, thank you everyone for listening. You can hang out with us on social medias and you could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. And you could rate and review us 5 stars.
And if there's anything you want us to watch, definitely let us know. Or, yeah, watch mostly. Or read or, listen to. Or, gosh, I'm sounding really congested here. Okay. Thanks. Thanks to Andrea Gin, our producer and co-host. And thank you for joining us for this podcast episode and therapy session. So we really enjoyed it.
As per usual, just a regular old therapy session for me.
Yeah.
We might as well just get you a little leather couch that you can lie on. Time's over.
Yeah. Well, here we go.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.